नमस्कार, स्वागत है आपका एडलवाइस व्यू पॉइंट में। आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं नवीन माथुर जी, जो डायरेक्टर है आनंद राठी स्टॉक ब्रोकिंग में करेंसी और कमोडिटीज़ मार्केट के लिए। इनका 25 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है फाइनेंशियल मार्केट में और ख़ासकर कमोडिटीज़ और करेंसी मार्केट में ये एक्सपर्ट है। आज हम इनके साथ जानेंगे कि गोल्ड की प्राइसेस क्यों बढ़ रही है, क्या फंडामेंटल्स है, क्या फैक्टर्स है जो गोल्ड प्राइसेस को ड्राइव करती है। नवीन जी, स्वागत है आपका एडलवाइस व्यू पॉइंट में।
धन्यवाद निरंजन। बहुत मैं आपको भी और एडेलवाइस म्यूचुअल फंड को भी देना चाहूंगा फॉर आस्किंग अस टू कम एंड शेयर आवर व्यूज
Thank
ऑन
you.
दिस
Thank you
पर्टिकुलर।
so much. Naveen ji, I was just looking at some data और what surprised me is काफी लंबे समय के बाद ऐसा एक समय आया है जहाँ पे इक्विटी मार्केट भी अच्छा कर रहा है और गोल्ड भी अच्छा कर रहा है। मैं देख रहा था गोल्ड के लास्ट 1 ईयर के रिटर्न्स इज अराउंड 18% और इक्विटी मार्केट तो आपको पता है। इनफैक्ट सेंसेक्स हैज जस्ट क्रॉस 75,000 और गोल्ड भी उसी कगार पे है, लगभग 73-74,000 के आसपास है। अ, तो सबसे बेसिक से स्टार्ट करते हैं। लेट्स स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द बेसिक कि कौन से ऐसे फैक्टर्स हैं जो गोल्ड की प्राइसेस को प्रभावित करते हैं शॉर्ट टर्म में और लॉन्ग टर्म में।
निरंजन, बहुत वैलिड क्वेश्चन है आज की डेट में। मेरा तकरीबन 3 डिकेड का कैपिटल मार्केट में एक्सपीरियंस है और उन 3 डिकेड में I would say the last 2 decades have been largely with commodities and the currencies business. शुरुआत से मैं यही कहता रहा, जब भी इन्वेस्टर्स से चर्चा होती थी या कोई मीटिंग्स या सेमिनार्स या कन्वेंशंस में जाते थे, तो हमेशा से एक सिंगल पॉइंट था डाइवर्सिफिकेशन को लेके। कि गोल्ड एक्ट्स एज अ डाइवर्सिफायर टू द पोर्टफोलियो, बट somehow or the other that misconception now, what you rightly said, is it's taken away.
राइट।
आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा निरंजन के इक्विटी मार्केट्स भी तेजी पे हैं, और अगर इनवर्स कोरिलेशन है गोल्ड का इक्विटी मार्केट्स के साथ, तो गोल्ड गिरना चाहिए, भाव गिरना चाहिए था, जो कि नहीं हो रहा है।
राइट।
सो इट्स अ, आई वुड से इट्स एन एक्सेप्शन टू अ लार्ज एक्सटेंट, misnomer so to say, with respect to what is happening in the current markets,
राइट।
both with respect to the risk assets and the non-risk or the safe assets like gold.
राइट।
In the financial year, the MCX, the last financial year, Niranjan, तकरीबन चौथा 14%, 14% की हमने प्राइस पॉजिटिव रिटर्न्स देखे। एंड वहीं मैं बात करूं मार्च में, एंड यू वुड बी सरप्राइज्ड, ऑन एमसीएक्स द मार्च month only, the last month of March gave approximately 21% positive returns on.
वाओ।
So agar equity or the Sensex is moving high every day,
राइट।
the gold felt that it should not leave its space
एक्चुअली
behind.
मैं क्यों पीछे रहूं?
And
दैट इज
therefore,
ट्रू।
and
दैट इज
therefore, the gold touched an all-time high of 71,740 per 10 grams.
राइट।
71,700 का भाव हमने 1-2 दिन पहले देखा highest on Tuesday. And the spot gold in dollar. If I'm paying
यस।
spot gold, the spot gold, or the spot gold also, to an extent, hit an all-time high on Tuesday, which was yesterday,
राइट।
at $2,365. So there are various factors. Silver also is doing in Indian markets, particularly on MCX, a high of 83,000 per kg. But at the same time, the spot silver है वो इस साल हाई नहीं है, although it is
एग्जैक्टली।
trading at
एग्जैक्टली।
around $28-29.
इनफैक्ट
But
सिल्वर
the
हैज
all
अंडर
time,
परफॉर्म्ड गोल्ड
हाँ
फॉर दिस
हाँ, so मैं
पीरियड।
बताऊं, वो आपका एक मेरे ख्याल से
यस।
क्वेश्चन भी होगा आने आगे।
यस।
I can understand
इसीलिए मुझे
that.
स्टार्ट बेसिक से करना था कि क्या फैक्टर्स है, मतलब
हाँ, तो
क्योंकि
मैं
लोग
बता रहा
काफी
हूँ क्योंकि
कंफ्यूज है
ये तो
क्या क्या
प्राइस
हुआ
ट्रेंड
है
है।
ऐसा।
हाँ, ये
राइट।
तो निरंजन प्राइसेस है जो बताना जरूरी है बिफोर
राइट।
गेटिंग इनटू
ट्रू।
of why the
एग्जैक्टली।
gold prices have been on a short term high.
ट्रू।
See, there are 2 or 3 very critical fundamental factors which are impacting gold today. The first is the central bank interest rates across the world, including, I would say, the Federal Reserve in US,
राइट।
has touched a peak. So the regime of interest rate is at it a pivot on the high side. So if you ask me on the Federal Reserve, the US interest rates are in the range of 5.25 to 5.50.
Yes.
On those are 22-year kind of highs. So वो pivot है, and now the stance of the central banks would be a dovish stance, which means that the dollar index would come down, the dollar would depreciate, or gold is inversely correlated to the dollar movement.
Absolutely.
तो एक वो कारण है कि जो कि प्राइस को एक हद तक, चाहे वो न्यूज में डिस्काउंट हो गया है, क्योंकि जुलाई के बाद जून वाज द हाईएस्ट पीक, एंड देन उसके बाद अब यही चल रहा है पिछले साल से कि द फेडरल रिजर्व वुड बी एन इजी मॉनेटरी.
राइट एंड वन ऑफ द एक्सपेक्टेशंस है कि डॉलर इंडेक्स वीक होगा एंड पीपल आर
तो ये एक्सपेक्टेशन है, क्योंकि
Yes.
इंडेक्स वीक होगा, 105 के आसपास था एक दो हफ्ते पहले, जो कि तकरीबन 104 के आसपास अभी है एज ऑफ वी स्पीक. सो एक वो मेन कारण है. सी गोल्ड प्रभावित होता है जियोपॉलिटिकल एंड इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशंस.
Absolutely.
So the geopolitical tensions also, Niranjan, are giving some positive cues for the prices to move up, and particularly Middle East. I would not say too much on the Russia and the Ukraine factor, because it's almost 2 years now. The war started in 2000, the invasion, so to say, started in 2022 February, and we are sitting 2 years down the line. So that is something I would say which is on the background, but then it is not a lively stuff today which is making headlines in terms of the geopolitical tension. So the second reason is the geopolitical concerns. The first is the interest rate. The third is that, Niranjan, लगता है कि central banks, and the number speaks of themselves. I'll share with you the numbers also later. But the central banks की जो buying है, that is also kind of 55-year. So we are buying from the last 1 or 2 years. The central banks are buying to the tune of 1,000+ tons every year. Various reasons for that, which we may discuss in the later part of the discussion. But the third reason, therefore, is that the central banks are looking forward to accumulate gold reserves. So interest rates, geopolitical concerns, central bank buying, hedge funds and therefore financial institutions also come in play. And the fourth important point is that the economic growth looks to be a question. Although we are not seeing that stuff in India, India is a different sweet spot altogether in the global world. But global economy would not grow. So there are economic concerns. So there are economic concerns, and gold serves the purpose. The bullion serves the purpose of being an inverse, as I said, to the dollar, inverse to the economic scenario. So इंडिया की अगर बात करें तो we'll discuss it a little later, but इंडिया की स्टोरी क्योंकि सेपरेट हो गई है, तो अगर एमसीएक्स में भावी तेजी पे हैं, तो इंडिया में इक्विटी मार्केट्स भी तेजी पे है, क्योंकि इंडिया की द ग्रोथ स्टोरी, the economic data is all well placed, be it inflation, be it growth, 8% plus and all. So it's a sweet spot among all the capital global markets. So that's
and I would
why
say India has kind of decoupled from, rest of the world actually. बहुत सारे indicators है, like inflation US में almost 40 years के बाद 8-9% पे था. India was still okay. For multiple reasons.
And we have been able to manage it well, Niranjan. To be very honest, we have been able to manage the macroeconomic fundamentals. Hats off to the regulator, the RBI, the government. The environment has become such that people across the globe, so I keep speaking to foreign investors, the FPIs, etc. The interest to India is a little different than the world. What India used to be, I would say a few years back, is a different India today. Absolutely. The consumption story, the demographics, the macroeconomic fundamentals, everything is positive for India. So what I'm trying to say, therefore, the short run, factors are somehow this, which has played in
Right.
the recent rally for gold, and the factors which drive gold in the short term beyond these is seasonal demand, the
Okay.
taxes, the tax
Right.
regime. Say, for example, if the import duty moves up and down in India, it
Yes.
directly impact the
It
gold
changes.
prices.
It changes.
So those are certain things which impact gold prices. On the longer term, there are only five or six things. Inflation, if the inflation is high, Niranjan, on the long term, the gold acts as an hedge of inflation. So people tend to go positive on gold, and therefore, when the crude was hitting high, there was concerns on geopolitics. There was inflationary concerns in 22 and 23. That was the
Yes.
only topic, and or I would say the talk of the town, so to say. Like every single economy, be it US, be it India, was gunning to disinflate the inflation
Absolutely.
number figures. So inflation hedge, interest rate scenario,
Hmm.
consumption and investment demand through banks and ETF, the
Hmm.
government reserves, so to say, the central bank reserves, and the jewelry and industrial demand. These are certain factors apart from the currency on the long term, which plays a very critical role for a long term trend on the
नवीन जी,
bullion.
आपने बताया कि मार्च में काफी बड़ा स्पाइक आया था. सो इज देयर एनी स्पेसिफिक रीजन, और वन ऑफ दोस शॉर्ट टर्म इंडिकेटर्स, मे बी डिमांड फ्रॉम सेंट्रल बैंक और समथिंग लोकल
नहीं,
डिमांड, उसके
मुझे
वजह से अचानक
निरंजन,
स्पाइक आया है?
हाँ,
हो सकता है.
थोड़ा सा डिलेमा है वो समझ में आने में.
ओके.
पर मुझे लगता है कि जो स्पाइक आया है ना, इट हैज एक्चुअली बीन द accumulated result of all the factors coming
राइट.
together now.
राइट.
So मेरे ख्याल से economic concerns would be the key. The second thing would be that every single central bank now would be having a dovish stance. So therefore, uh, the diversifier of the reserves for the central bank, the dollar index anticipation or expectation to go down further from 104. So people are looking forward,
ओके.
therefore, for the gold to be an asset to part with.
इनफैक्ट मेरा
And
वही एक क्वेश्चन था कि आई वाज लुकिंग एट डेटा, और करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, चाइना हैज बीन वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट बायर्स ऑफ गोल्ड पिछले कुछ महीनों में. सो पहला ये सही है? और क्या रीजन है कि चाइना, बिकॉज चाइना is also one of the largest holders of US dollars
true,
indirectly
very
through
true,
bonds,
very
US
true.
bonds. बट अभी वो गोल्ड परचेज कर रहा है, तो इसके पीछे क्या रीजन हो सकता है?
Uh, See this. I'll share with you certain numbers. So I
हाँ.
was looking to certain numbers.
राइट.
Uh, Apart from China, Niranjan, the central banks, except means people banks of China, definitely
यस.
has been the largest buyer of gold recently or of
ओके.
late. But what we have seen is even India, Turkey, and to an extent the Central Bank of Kazakhstan.
ओके.
Means I'm seeing the names of the countries. Even Kazakhstan is looking
एब्सोल्युटली.
forward to diversify their reserves. The central bank is looking
ओके.
forward to diversify their reserves. In 2023, China outpaced all central banks in terms of their buying.
हम्म.
They added approximately 225 tons of gold to their reserves. And I'm repeating it, 225 टन, किलो नहीं, 225 टन ऐड किया है, which means 2,25,000 किलो. एक टन is 1,000 kgs.
1000.
So what I'm trying to tell is
ह्यूज.
that 225 tons in 2023 is the only bank which has added up, apart from what India and the other banks would have done.
सॉरी टू कट यू, हु आर द प्रोड्यूसर्स ऑफ गोल्ड? इतना गोल्ड आता कहाँ से मार्केट में?
So you have South Africa,
विच इज काफी बड़ा.
Australia. They are the couple of the largest nations who
ओके.
produce gold. So South Africa, Australia, some part of Africa also has started looking at mining on the gold.
Okay.
But there are 2 or 3 nations like Australia and South Africa and some part in the US too, which produces in the Latin America, apart from the industrial metals, the gold also comes in as a byproduct of industrial metal. When you mine copper, actually,
Okay.
you also get a byproduct of
That's a good.
silver and gold. Very negligible quantity, but you do get that. So the gold comes from these regions.
Okay.
So the production is limited, Niranjan, but the buying spree is continuing. So with production limited, or I would say supply is limited, you have a demand which is continuing on the uptake. That is also one of the reasons of the goal to take up. अब अगर सेंट्रल बैंक बाय कर रहे हैं, ईटीएफ्स बाय कर रहे हैं, होल्डिंग्स बढ़ रही हैं, इन्वेस्टर्स आ रहे हैं मार्केट में for a view, not like for a view of next 10, 15 years, but of a short term view for next 2 or 3 years, they are also buying no? For holding up gold. So the demand तो बढ़ रही है, supply constraint है, तो supply वही है. और even निरंजन, the scrap doesn't come even when the prices are high. Even if the scrap, see, the people don't come with a jewelry. You and me will not go to a jeweler to sell my jewelry at these high prices because of an anticipation कि कल उससे ज्यादा भाव मिलेगा ना. तो एक तो माइनिंग सोर्स है, एक स्क्रैप आता है जो रिसाइकिल होता है, डोरे एंड ऑल दीज आर लिमिटेड इन सप्लाई. विद प्राइसेस हाई, you have a restriction on supply, the demand continues to be positive, and that is also leading to the spike. So certain numbers, I'm telling you, this 2023 buying of 225 tons to the gold reserves of the People's Bank of China, Niranjan, is the highest 55 years, 55 साल के बाद, 1977 के बाद, this is the highest number that the Central Bank of China has actually gone into adding up the reserves of these sort of the gold reserves into their kitty. So all these things are making up the fundamental factors for gold to continue to be bullish.
मेरा सवाल अभी वहीं पे आने वाला था नवीन जी, क्योंकि सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन आता है कि और कितना बढ़ेगा यहाँ से, क्योंकि इंडिया में तो हमको पता है, और अभी फेस्टिव सीजन आएगा, अक्षय तृतीया आएगी, गुड़ी पाड़वा कल हो चुका है. इनफैक्ट मैं घर पे ही यही बात कर रहा था कि मुझसे पूछा जाता है कि गोल्ड और कितना जाएगा, और इसका आंसर मेरे पास होता नहीं है. शायद से आपके पास वो आंसर हो,
निरंजन, वो
तो
बहुत
प्लीज बताएं.
डिफिकल्ट है. इट इज एनीबॉडीज गेस टुडे.
राइट.
एक फिगर बताता हूं तुम्हें. For the viewers to understand, COMEX is the largest market on the bullion,
right,
and it's in US. We all know. You know that the COMEX gold speculator net long positions are at 4-year high. I'm repeating it. The long positions of the speculators on COMEX for gold are at 4-year high as on April the 2nd, a week before.
That's huge.
And the number in terms of that particular position is 178213 contract, 4-year high. So even the speculators, your question is absolutely right, looking forward to see a continuous uptick, and therefore the net long positions are at 4-year high. I'm saying about, so it's a very easy, but it's a very difficult question at the same time.
I know. But also क्योंकि गोल्ड ने,
राइट,
क्योंकि गोल्ड ने काफी समय तक अंडर परफॉर्म भी किया था. इनफैक्ट 2020 में इट स्टार्टेड ग्रोइंग, बट जैसे आपने बताया कि इनवर्स कोरिलेशन है यूएस डॉलर इंडेक्स के साथ, और डॉलर इंडेक्स बिकॉज इंटरेस्ट रेट्स वहां पर बढ़ रहे थे वाज एक्चुअली स्ट्रेंथनिंग. और अभी वो थोड़ा सा एक फेज आया जहां पर मे बी गोल्ड शाइन अपनी फिर से लेके आ रहा है, and maybe that's the reason people are so bullish, and I agree.
I would say, Niranjan, that we'll have to be cautious.
Okay.
The first, line I would say, मतलब कि घर जाओ और मतलब कि हाउस वाइफ से कि देखो निरंजन में कह रही थी आज खरीद लेते हैं, 60,000 का भाव है, 65,000 का भाव है, देख लो आज 72,000 हो गया, नहीं मानी तो डोंट ब्लेम मी फॉर टुमारो. I, as my experience goes, Niranjan, I would say that there would be some breathing space coming up in gold.
Okay, got it. So we can safely say कि अगर आपको खरीदना है तो थोड़ा खरीदे और थोड़ा और बचा के रखे. ड्राई
मैं
पाउडर जो
आता
हम
हूँ
इक्विटी
उसपे,
में बात कर
मैं
रहे हैं
बताता हूँ वो क्या करना चाहिए निरंजन. आ सकती है गिरावट.
Okay.
The only reason, in spite that the fundamentals are strong, the charts are strong. Even technically the charts are strong. Why I'm saying this, there would be a profit book. Means ऐसा तो नहीं है ना, अगर सब means although it has defied, I'm saying, repeating it, it has defied fundamentals with touching high every day over the last 1 week or so. So the figure 2,365 has come on the Tuesday, which was yesterday, and every day Monday ko bhi high touch kiya, Tuesday ko bhi high touch kiya. But I would say that the prices would consolidate
absolutely
around 2350 के आसपास. Dollars. मतलब कि you won't believe, just on Good Friday 2 weeks back, we had the bullion conference organized by the IFSC. And the people view 2 weeks back was that they see a high of 2350, which has happened on Tuesday. So एक हफ्ते में ही हो गया. But what I think is that the range would be to an extent of 2350, 2345, say 50, 60. So we are on the highs, so to say. अगर एक और स्पाइक आया 2400 तक जा सकता है, 2415 तक. बट उससे पहले एक डाउनफॉल भी आएगा.
आ सकता है. जस्ट बिकॉज जिन लोगों ने पोजीशंस ली है उन्हें प्रॉफिट बुक तो करना होगा. एंड जनरली जब प्रॉफिट बुकिंग होगा तो जो निवेशक है, लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर्स, उनके लिए वो अपॉर्चुनिटी बन सकती है.
मेरे ख्याल से कंसोलिडेट होगा थोड़े टाइम तक इसी रेट के आसपास, 2350, 2300 के आसपास. यू विल सी द प्राइसेस वुड कंसोलिडेट. आई एम नॉट of a very firm view that you would see a next spike immediately.
Right.
So
दूसरा मेरा एक सवाल था नवीन जी कि गोल्ड प्राइसेस उनसे बाकी कमोडिटीज को इम्पैक्ट करते हैं या इफेक्ट करते हैं. बिकॉज जहां तक मेरी जानकारी है कॉपर प्राइसेस भी काफी बड़े हैं पिछले कुछ महीनों में. सो ये गोल्ड प्राइसेस अपने आप में बाकी कमोडिटीज के भी प्राइसेस ड्राइव करता है कुछ हद तक.
निरंजन, पहले क्वेश्चन का आंसर दे देता हूं कि बाय
गोल्ड
इन अ स्टैगर्ड वे.
अच्छा, ओके, थैंक यू.
मतलब कि वो जरूर करना चाहिए.
राइट.
एंड देयर आर वेरियस ऑप्शंस in India for people to buy gold today. Used to be just the physical gold earlier.
अभी तो काफी ऑप्शंस हैं.
अभी तो काफी हैं. You have ETFs, you have sovereign gold bonds, you even have the physical gold buying, gold coins through banks, etc., etc. Even on the MCX, the delivery of mini gold and all.
Right.
So buy in a staggered way, buy in dips in a staggered way.
Okay.
That should be the strategy for people to accumulate gold. And I would also say that in spite that the prices are high, you should buy gold as an SIP. Means देखो COVID के time पे when the equity markets were down, the gold touched highs.
Yes.
New highs at that time too, Niranjan.
At that time.
So if you are having lows on the equity while COVID, or even in the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, Niranjan, if you had gold,
you would have saved.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
It makes sense to
does make sense
to hedge your portfolio against just the equity market.
Absolutely.
So एक तो investment purposes and एक diversify purpose के लिए you should use gold as an SIP. किसी भी बात पे आप हर एक महीने जो आपका पॉकेट है, जो आपको लगता है रिस्क एपेटाइट है, खरीदना चाहिए. Now that is answer to the first question of yours. Can we
क्या
continue?
करें?
You should in a different mode for a diversifier as an asset class. Because when equity markets fail, you would still
Yes,
find gold moving on the
moving
upside.
on the other side.
That's the answer to the previous
Thank you.
question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your question with respect to that it impact other commodities, I would say it's a other way around story.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Means the industrial, the economy growth, the demand for industrial commodities, including I would say energy products, Niranjan,
Okay.
would drive gold. अगर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ अच्छी है तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज एवरीथिंग वुड वर्क वेल एज फार एज द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इज कंसर्न. तो उनके प्राइसेस तो ऊपर जाने चाहिए लॉजिकली थ्योरेटिकली,
Right.
क्योंकि डिमांड बढ़ेगी.
Demand supply.
एल्यूमिनियम, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, स्टोरी ऑफ इंडिया getting into for infrastructure changes in the decade now from here, what we have done in infrastructure yesterday, story of China.
Right.
So all those things are positive for other commodities,
Other commodities.
but negative for gold as a theoretical practice.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Means as a theoretical logic, as a risk averse versus a risk asset, the gold would be negative. It doesn't happen directly that the gold prices are moving up, so it may impact copper prices. No, means
Okay.
it is the cause and effect are different for different commodities.
Got it. Now coming to
Broadly.
silver, generally हमने देखा है that when gold does extremely well, silver is actually a commodity on steroid, क्योंकि वो उससे डबल तेजी से बढ़ता है. हमने पिछले 2009, 11, 12, 13 में वो फेज देखा था. रिसेंटली भी ये 2-3 महीने अगर आप छोड़ दे तो सिल्वर वाज डूइंग वेल टू सम एक्सटेंट, लेकिन लास्ट पिछले 1 साल में अगर हम देखें तो सिल्वर हैज अंडर परफॉर्म्ड गोल्ड. तो ऑफ कोर्स सिल्वर इज अ कमोडिटी, इंडस्ट्रियल कमोडिटी, और डिमांड सप्लाई हैज अ मेजर इम्पैक्ट ऑन इट्स प्राइसेस. बट आपके हिसाब से क्या है, आई मीन is there room for silver also to catch up with gold prices, or there is no relation between them?
Exactly, Niranjan, जो आपने कहा बिल्कुल ठीक बात कही है.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately 60% of the demand in silver, it comes from industrial use.
Yes.
And it is used for various reasons, electrical, all those reasons, appliances, etc. So 40% जो है वो बुलियन का फैक्टर इन्वेस्टमेंट डिमांड है. 60% इज इंडस्ट्रियल डिमांड. 2 साल अच्छे नहीं थे. लीव असाइड इंडिया स्टोरी, आई एम रिपीटिंग इट. 2 साल अच्छे नहीं थे. Means although the equity markets have moved up globally, but economically the inflationary concerns has been on the question with respect to the interest rate hikes. And the interest rate hikes would hamper economic growth.
Okay.
Capex investment by private players, etc., etc. So the economies were not doing great. Industries were on a wait and watch approach. भाई तो आप अगर capex, the story of India also relates or resonates to that extent is that till now the government has done its bit, but private sector is still waiting and watching till last year. Basis their expansion plans, etc. So industrial demand अगर कम है तो वो उतनी तेजी से सिल्वर के प्राइसेस में इफेक्ट नहीं दिखाई देगा because of 60% of the usage in the industry. But going forward, it will outpace. It has outpaced the prices. Means if you see, the silver prices have always been higher than. So today, as we sit, it is around 84,000 per kg
per
of
kg.
per kg in Indian rupee terms, and $29 in dollar terms. So
Right.
means I would say the silver would outpace gold in terms of the returns. एक और भी रीजन है, the demand projected is 1.2 billion ounces in 2024, and you also have a deficit in silver. So with that supply in deficit, the demand being high, it makes sense for the prices to be on the upside. So I think
Right.
the prices would be on the upside. बट आई वुड नॉट रिलेट टू द क्वेश्चन जो आज चल रहा है मार्केट में है कि भाई क्या लाख रुपया हो जाएगा इमीडिएट चांदी. So I don't see that way in terms of it's a very dynamic commodity, Niranjan. We need to understand, very dynamic because of its nature, very dynamic, very speculative because of its nature. So I would say that कहना के लाख हो जाएगा is a difficult question. But the trend of both gold and silver is positive, and the fundamentals are also the underlying for that trend to continue to be positive.
Right.
Even for silver with respect to the demand and supply.
Right. So today अगर आप इन्वेस्टमेंट के हिसाब से देखें तो मे बी 50-60% गोल्ड और 40-50% सिल्वर एक अच्छा इन्वेस्टमेंट हो सकता है, क्योंकि म्यूचुअल फंड्स में 2 साल पहले तक सिर्फ गोल्ड ईटीएफ्स अवेलेबल थे.
मैं आ रहा था उस पे.
गोल्ड ईटीएफ है, सिल्वर ईटीएफ्स अवेलेबल है. हम पहले एएमसी थे जिन्होंने एक गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर एफओएफ लॉन्च किया, जिसमें 50-50% हम रखते हैं, क्योंकि हमने डेटा देखा था कि जब जब गोल्ड अच्छा करता है सिल्वर एक्चुअली डज एक्सट्रीमली वेल. एट द सेम टाइम जब सिल्वर खराब करता है तो ड्रॉडाउन्स भी काफी ज्यादा होते हैं. तो अगर आप इसको गोल्ड से मिक्स करते हैं तो आपका रिटर्न ओवरऑल थोड़ा बढ़
आपका
जाता है
जो
और
रिस्क
रिस्क कम हो जाता
एडजस्टेड रिटर्न है ना निरंजन, दोनों बुलियन के मिक्स से बहुत बेटर हो जाता है.
Exactly. तो
That's
हमने वो
why I
डेटा देखा
said
है.
that it's a very dynamic commodity. So you need
Yes.
to understand it well.
Right.
That way.
Right.
ETF is one of the options. गोल्ड ETF तो थे ही पिछले कई
Yes.
सालों से, 10 12 15 साल से.
Hmm.
I personally invest myself in gold ETF. Means
Right.
if you really ask me, best way to do it beyond sovereign gold funds, etc.
Absolutely.
So
लिक्विडिटी है आपके पास, आप कभी भी बाय
हाँ
कर
भाई,
सकते हैं.
आपको आज निकालना है, मुझे हाई पे निकालना है, तो मैं
Yes.
सारा ऑफलोड कर सकता हूँ विद इन अ मिनट ऑन अ क्लिक ऑफ द बटन. सो यू हैव लिक्विडिटी, यू हैव ऑल द गुड रीजंस ऑफ नॉट स्टोरेज इश्यूज.
Absolutely.
कहाँ सेफ डिपॉजिट कहाँ पे रखोगे, क्या है.
Right.
So I think the silver ETF, the gold ETF, the sovereign gold bonds, and congratulations to you. What you said is exactly the things to be. Means if you want to be part of the story of a bullion, it's a good to have a mix of gold ETF, gold as a fund of fund, the gold underlying and the silver underlying as an asset in the times of diversity. So I would say that silver ETF is definitely, although it didn't picked up, so to say, in terms of the AUM collections at all
It is still
the
tiny.
major
It is still
asset
tiny.
management companies, but it has a future, and I think one of the big tools for people who want to stay invested in ETFs or in silver. ETF can be one of the options, Niranjan.
Now, just coming towards our end of the discussion, एक क्वेश्चन हमेशा एंड मैं आपको पूछे बिना जाने नहीं दूंगा. क्रिप्टो करेंसी पीपल थॉट कैन रिप्लेस गोल्ड. आपकी राय क्या है इसमें?
I have never been in favor of crypto.
Okay.
Because
ऐसी भी theories आई थी कि
I
जब
think
गोल्ड
it's
अंडर
a
परफॉर्म कर रहा था.
non-regulated. Niranjan, the
हाँ.
first thing we should understand, it's a non-regulated asset.
Yes.
Across the globe. Across the globe. करते हैं लोग, teenagers put their money in cryptos. Well, that's fine. That's okay. But then means I would say you need to be very cautious.
Right. But it will never replace gold, right?
It can never. I was coming to that point only just to give a comparison. See, एक feel factor होता है, means you have an emotional store of value,
Store of value.
wealth creation.
Right.
Means going to a casino or playing in crypto is one or the same thing, if you really ask me personally.
Right. And gold, when I was reading some article, actually the history of gold goes back to 5,000 year. और आज अगर हम इन्वेस्टमेंट्स की बात करते हैं तो गोल्ड इज द ओनली एसेट क्लास जिसकी इतनी हिस्ट्री है. वर्ल्ड वॉर्स हुआ है, आई मीन लॉट
Absolutely.
ऑफ थिंग्स हैव हैपेंड.
Means there is no second thought about it. Means be it India, it was an India story, used to be a decades before कि भाई आज फेस्टिवल सीजन है, दिवाली है, तो इंडिया में डिमांड आएगी तो गोल्ड की प्राइसेस बढ़ जाएंगी. Said and done, to an extent it works, but then the entire world has moved on gold to a different way to see it. See, gold can never be compared to any other asset class, Niranjan, if you can really ask. So whether we like it or not, but the family, the housewives, if they used to say it कि gold को छोड़ना नहीं है, तो that is the right thing.
No, I mean, I can vouch for it. India में the most loved asset class is gold. After that, it is real estate. And maybe after that, mutual funds and everything.
Exactly. So
that's
what I'm saying. Means leave aside whatever it is. There would be numerous innovations which would keep coming with the financial in the financial industry.
Right.
But then you can never compare gold. Means gold has its own storyline, and I would say even if you are part of those new innovative products, you should never, approximately, Niranjan, 10 to 12% of your corpus disposable income should go to gold. Should go to gold. And that can never be I would say, means never be an idea which should be kept in silo to see it for tomorrow. Never be. It should not be the case. So I would say it differs a lot. There are no comparisons for that matter.
Right. Naveen ji, thank you so much. Dhanyavad for sharing all your thoughts. I think so this will help lot of investors, क्योंकि काफी लोगों को ये बेसिक क्वेश्चंस भी होते थे कि गोल्ड कब प्राइसेस बढ़ती है, कब नीचे आती है, किस फैक्टर्स को देखे. आई थिंक सो जो ट्रेडर्स है, ट्रेडर कम्युनिटी है, उनके लिए भी ये काफी अच्छा कंटेंट है टू अंडरस्टैंड गोल्ड इन अ फंडामेंटल वे. थैंक यू सो मच. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आपसे फिर मुलाकात होगी, फिर बात करेंगे.
Anytime, Niranjan, and thank you to Edelweiss Mutual Fund for inviting us.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.